So hello, I'm going to start this session. My name is Erin Ruggieri. I'm one of the marketing coordinators with BCIT School of Health Sciences, and welcome to the Cardiology Technology Program information session this evening. I really appreciate you joining us. The program tonight's going to be presented by Lisa Gowans. It should be about 45 minutes in length, so I'm not going to keep you too long. So before we begin, I want to say that the British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam people. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Lisa.
Well, so quickly passed me. Thank you, Erin.
Sorry, I went through it so fast.
That's okay. Welcome. My name is Lisa Gowans, and I am program head for the Cardiology Technology program, and we're so glad that you're here. Okay, so what is cardiology technology? So cardiology technology is doing non-invasive diagnostic cardiac tests, and it can occur in the hospital, and there's some people who work in clinics. Life Labs is a private company that employs cardiology technologists as well. So we work in the hospital. We have lots of areas that we go in. We do have an outpatient area as well. And you get to go around the hospital and do tests such as ECGs, which is electrocardiograms, doing tracings of the electric activity of people's hearts. We get to do treadmill tests where we put patients on the treadmill and we stress their heart and see what happens. And we do Holter scanning, which means where people are go home with a monitor for 24 hours, and then we analyze the data to see if there's any electrical changes that need attention from a cardiologist. So just to talk about our program overview, our program is blended. It's a blended program delivery that includes online. So most of it's online. The academic portion is online, but you get to come to BCIT after you've done your first 11 courses, and you come to BCIT and we do a lab all together with all the students in your cohort that are going to go to clinical, and you come every day for 2 weeks. We practice all the skills that you're going to need to enter the hospital for your first clinical. So we do 2 clinical rotations. We do one after the first lab, and then you go back to school. So you go home, do your didactic work from online, and then we have a second clinical placement. So one of the great things about our program, we're under flexible learning. So there is flexibility within how much you take. Some people will take a full course load. If you do that model, you can finish our program in about 2 years, but you have up to 5 years. So if you decide to do it on a more part-time basis, which a lot of people do if they have, other commitments in their life or they work, then they're able to mix and match, to what works best for them. So our clinical time to combined is 26 weeks. So the first clinical is 10 weeks and the second clinical is 16 weeks. It is full time. So just to know that. And we have lots of hospitals all across Canada. We have about 35 different hospitals that we use. We have students regularly in provinces BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Manitoba, and we have had students in New Brunswick, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia, but a little bit less often. And just the lab is such a great experience because it allows students to connect with each other because they've been learning online and get to meet their classmates and connect and get ready for the clinical placement. So in the clinical, it is the opportunity for hands-on in the hospital environment. So all of the information you've learned online, the theory, then you had a little bit of an introduction into the lab while you've been here on campus. Then you get to launch into the hospital and practice the skills that you have learned. And it just gives you the opportunity to have a variety of patient populations. Some hospitals are bigger, some hospitals are smaller, but we jump in there right away and get to practice the skills. One of the highlights of our program is that there is an exposure to advanced areas of practice. So lots of people will become cardiology technologists. Some people will continue that path as a career, and some students will continue on, and they can take advanced programs such as electrophysiology, cardiovascular, or device. So you get a little bit of a taster in the clinical. We give students the opportunity to experience those when they're in the clinical, and it just gives you a little bit of an introduction if you decide that's where you want a goal for moving forward. So the job opportunities, career outlook. So I've been a cardiology technologist for over 20 years, and long time. And when I look back to what attracted me to the program, I think even same as it is now, BCIT is well known for getting people job ready. So that was one of the reasons that I was attracted to BCIT. But the job in cardiology did attract me. One, because at the time, there wasn't a lot of nighttime work, and I knew that nights wasn't really for me. In cardiology, we service a lot of outpatients, which the highest amount of workload is Monday to Friday, sort of 8 to 4, 8 to 5. And that appealed to me. And when I considered some of the other health professions, I knew that sort of using exposure to bodily fluids really wasn't for me. So that was another reason. But one of the highlights, I would say, through my career that I feel like really affected me was that when you work in cardiology, you have the opportunity to, it's one of the few health issues that patients really can be empowered to make changes for themselves. So you can be part of the journey where patients change their lifestyles and they come back the next year and they're healthier and they're happier, and they've done some of those things for themselves, which I always found very appealing. So in this day and age, I have calls almost every week or emails of trying to source out our graduates. So there is a very high demand for our graduates at this time. Most positions can be found in the hospitals. There are labs such as Life Labs that hire cardio techs. You could go on to a medical device company, or you could work in a cardiology clinic. But the wages are around $30 an hour. It depends on which province you are, and it's predicted to be increasing as the demand for healthcare workers increases over time as well. So I spoke a little bit about this before, some of the laddering opportunities. So we do have a fair amount of grads that continue on. It depends on which hospital or health region you work at. But if you are in the, if you're a graduate from the cardiology technology program and you work in a hospital, there's many hospitals or health regions that support cardio techs to continue the journey of their education. And this can look like working in the EP lab, where they do mapping of the electrical activity of your heart, and sometimes they cauterize or burn spots that are causing arrhythmias. You can work with patients with pacemakers in the clinic, and the cardiovascular program is when they put a stent in your artery when it's blocked. So those are some opportunities. Those are a little bit different. Those are kind of more in a lab setting or a clinic setting that is, less of an area where patients are coming in and out. But it is an opportunity to work with other professions as well. And the other thing is TRU, Health Sciences degree. So our program, we have an agreement with TRU. So if you finish our program and you decide to continue to go to university and get a health sciences degree, our program will give you credits towards that. So that's a great thing. You ready, Rachel? So pretty fortunate today that Rachel has joined us. Rachel is just finishing her second clinical. So she has been in the program, and we're going to let her talk, but She's she's almost at the finish line. It's so close, isn't it, Rachel?
Yep, pretty close.
Yeah.
Just over halfway.
Yeah. Halfway of the clinical, but she's almost
Yes.
finished the program. Yeah. Okay, so this is Rachel, and yeah, she is one of my second-year students. She'll be graduating in July, and she is in Kamloops and is at Royal Inland Hospital, and I'm really happy that she was able to join us. So I'll let you speak there.
Hi, well, I'm Rachel, and like I said, I'm halfway through week 9 in my final clinical for BCIT's Cardiology Technology program. Some of you may have already seen my photo posted on the BCIT Instagram page. I'm all dressed up, ready to go to the OR. So that was really nice. Unfortunately, I couldn't have any of the cool stuff in the background because patient information was there, but it looks a little bit more impressive than just doors behind me. But I was keen on BCIT's cardiology program because it was offered online and I had the option to take the program part-time. So I could still work part-time as well, which is not really an option at other institutions. The program was a great fit for me for study hours because they were very flexible to work around, and it provided me a great space to learn at a rate that I was comfortable with. In my final clinical, I am discovering that the flexibility of the program reflects on what it will be like as a registered cardiology technologist myself. And my preceptors at Royal Inland are more than welcoming and have provided me great tools to help me succeed in my future career. And they have already scheduled an interview with me just at the very end of July, so I can be hired into a full-time line right away. So that's really nice to have that opportunity just kind of ready for me. And when I first joined the program, I thought I was going to be alone because it was online. So I was a little worried that I was going to have to do all this by myself. But the instructors are always happy to answer your questions through email, and some are willing to even do virtual face-to-face sessions to make sure that you're grasping the correct material. So that was very helpful. And it was also easy to get in contact with my fellow peers when I needed more guidance. And there have been a few cases where I have had really good relationships with a lot of other students, and we were able to have group chats, and we're always able to communicate and ask each other questions. So that's always really helpful, and it's a really good tool to have. And it also just provides a really fun and interactive learning space, which has helped me succeed in this program. And overall, BCIT's Cardiology Technology program has provided excellent skills and the essential qualities to help me excel as a cardiology technologist.
Well, congratulations, Rachel. That's exciting. I didn't know about the interview. So that's great. Those are, yeah, so it is important to try to stay connected when you're in an online program.
Yeah.
All right.
It's really been eye-opening and a really great program to be a part of.
Yeah, and it has helped that I think we do a lot more interactive live sessions now. So we do some live sessions in each course, which provides you the opportunity to see and look at your instructor, interact with your classmates. So we're fortunate that technology has helped us move towards that. So I think that helps with the not feeling as isolated.
Okay, well, thank you, Rachel. Really appreciate you coming on tonight. It's always great to hear from a student and not just us faculty and other people.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
I understand that you can stay around for a bit. So if we have any questions at the end that might be for you, you'll be here to answer those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, well, then just hold tight there, and I'm going to continue with some information about admission. So now that we've told you a lot about the program and what we do in the program, I'm going to talk about how do you get in if you're interested. So there are 2 start dates for our cardiology technology program. We take an intake of students every September, and we take an intake at the start of January every year. So on your screen here, you can see the different application periods that are listed. So there is still some time to apply for September if you're interested. You can apply up until July 7th is the last day to have all your documents in. So if you're interested and want to get started right away, there is still some time to apply. Otherwise, our January intake opens mid-July and will be open until mid-October. So you can definitely apply for January as well. So like we said earlier, the program length does depend on the number of theory courses you take each term. So you can take this as a full-time, or you can take this as a part-time. So if you take 6 to 9 credits per term, could take you 3 to 5 years to complete. 12 to 18 credits per term, you could be done in 2 years. So we do recommend that you finish everything within at least 5 years, just because you want to be successful on the exam at the end of the program. You don't want to forget anything from the beginning of the program to the end of the program during that period. So you want the information to be fresh enough for your credentialing exam. So the application steps are all pretty much online now. So you'd go to our website, bcit.ca, Cardiology Technology, or just Google BCIT Cardiology Tech. And you would review all the entrance requirements on the website, which I will also bring up screen in a second here. But you'll review those requirements, you'll review the application dates and deadlines, and then you'll convert all of your documents, everything you need, to PDF files. BCIT does not accept or prefers not to accept paper copies of transcripts anymore. So we really do everything online. We need everything converted to PDF and uploaded that way. And then you will complete both the mandatory questionnaire that we have posted on our website and the Casper test. Now, some of you might be familiar with Casper because it is used for many other programs as well. Casper is an online situational test, and you register through their website. As you can just Google Casper, or it's takealtus.ca, I believe, is their website URL. And there's a bunch of practice tests on there. There's a bunch of information about how to take the test. It's not a right, wrong. It's a best and better kind of situation. It's really how you would respond in certain situations. So it's more personality based and situational than needing to know a lot about facts and figures about the profession or about health sciences. And then once you've done all that, you submit all your application documents online through BCIT's website. So the entrance requirements that are posted on our website: proficiency in speaking and listening in English. Everything in healthcare, cardiology technology included, requires a lot of communication both with patients, clients, and with other healthcare professionals. So it is essential that you have a background in English, in that you have been studying for 2 years in an English-speaking country. English Studies 12, so grade 12 English, you need to have at least a 73% or B. Pre-Calc 12 at a 67, that's a C+. Anatomy and Physiology 12 at a 67. Physics 11, 67. Chemistry 11, 67. And again, as I mentioned, the Casper test and the mandatory applicant questionnaire. So these are the entrance requirements. These are the minimum requirements. So again, if you have above that, even better, but you do need to at least meet these minimums. And then from there, preference will be given to any applicants who have any related volunteer and or work experience. And I might get Lisa to talk a bit about that afterwards. A demonstrated interest in the field, any additional post-secondary education, and if you have consistently good grades in your previous education. So if you have a strong GPA throughout, that really shows that you're a strong student and definitely helps you out a lot there too. Lisa, do you want to jump in with what is considered related volunteer and or work experience?
Yeah, for sure. So, there was a period of time where we were really looking for volunteers that had worked in the hospital. But we found over time that they really scaled back what volunteers are allowed to do in the hospital. So you somewhat have more limited experience. So don't feel that you have to be tied to hospital experience only. We are looking for people who might work in an environment where there's customer service. Are you able to interact with customers? Are you able to juggle multiple things that are happening at one time? And if your questionnaire can display that in the experience of your volunteer and or work. So in our questionnaire, it is in one area to describe your volunteer and or work experience. I think that is that can really demonstrate that you could be successful in a busy health environment. Another piece too, I'm just going to jump in here,
Sure.
Erin, and mention that, you know, because we're under the flexible learning model, students before being accepted into our program are able to try 1 to 3 courses beforehand. And, you know, that sort of lends to give people the opportunity to try it out and see if they think it will fit for them. So we have some courses in the first year, like medical terminology is an example that, you know, even if you decided to not pursue cardiology technology, but you want to be in health, you would be able to take that course and use what you learned in another program. But it allows you to give the chance to like see if you think it's going to fit into your life or if this kind of learning model is going to work for you.
Good point, Lisa. Thank you. So with your transcripts and documents, like I said earlier, you do need to upload digital copies of everything. So you can scan your documents, or some places actually will send you digital files directly. If they don't, though, you definitely can scan or even take a photo with your cell phone of your documents. You don't have to use an actual scanner for this, and upload your documents that way. Mailing in transcripts, again, like I said, not recommended. If you have been a previous BCIT student, we do not need your BCIT transcript because you already have been here and we already have it on file. We just need to know that you've been a BCIT student, so we know to access that. The admission process. So once all of your documents have been sent in, our admissions department at BCIT reviews all the applications to ensure that all the requirements have been met. If you have met all the requirements and your application is complete, it is then forwarded to Lisa in the cardiology department. And after the application deadline date, we get all the applications all at once, and the department shortlists and selects applicants. There are no bonus points for applying early in the application cycle, but we do recommend not leaving it to the last minute in case there's something missing from your application and admissions contacts you and says, hey, we're missing a document. So you do want to kind of give yourself a bit of buffer time there. But it's not a first come, first served. It's we look at all the applications at the end, so you don't have to worry about being the first one in the application cycle. So once you are a student at BCIT, even though the cardiology technology program spends a lot of time online and so you're not on campus very much, you are still able to access all of the different campus supports that we have available at BCIT. The first one of those is our Indigenous Initiatives Department, and they offer support to students who identify as Indigenous, and also a welcome place for you to come and learn if you're just curious about Indigenous issues in Canada and Indigenous history and culture. They have a welcoming gathering place in there where they have a great group of people to learn from and hang out with and get some support from. We also have our Student Financial Aid and Awards Department. So there is financial aid available if that's something you're interested in looking into. There are bursaries and awards that you can apply for. Accessibility services, that department is for anybody who has a permanent or temporary disability that might require some extra accommodations while you're at school. Student Health Services, one of my favorites. If you don't have a GP, or you are far from home, or you can't get in to see your GP in a timely manner, which is true for some of us, Student Health Services, full service health clinic with doctors, nurses on staff on campus, open 5 days a week. You do need to make an appointment, but oftentimes they can get you in same day, which is a lot faster than I can get in to see my GP. And in the same building as Student Health Services, we also have our counseling and student development. Again, free to students. We have counselors and psychologists on staff who can talk to you about anything from relationships to stress management to anxiety, depression, anything that students might go through in their time as a student. And recreation services. If you're near campus and you just need to blow off some steam, get some exercise, get a little workout in before or after the rest of your day. Recreation services, we have a full service gym with towel service and shower facilities, and we also have intramural sports. So we have a lot of options there. So after this presentation, I know we've given you a lot of information. If you have further questions, one of your great resources is program advising. And program advising, you can go to their website, bcit.ca/advising, and they have availability to assist with any questions about your application, about which program might be right for you, about how to make your program competitive. They're available by telephone, Zoom, in-person, email, and all their current hours are available on their website. And I don't want to quote their hours right now because they do tend to change as they head into summer, and we're getting pretty close to that right now. I also have to do a bit of a shameless plug for our social media accounts. I run a number of them, so I have to throw this in here. If you'd like to learn more about BCIT, following us on social, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever, is a great way to learn more about what it's like to be a student here. Our cardiology program actually has their own individual Instagram account now, which Rachel was mentioning she was profiled on earlier. So if you want to see what it kind of a day in the life of a cardiology faculty member or student looks like, do check out their Instagram. And with that, I'm going to take it to some questions and answers. But before I do, there's one thing I didn't mention at the beginning, and that is that this session is being recorded. So in about a week's time, we will be emailing you a link to this recording and a copy of the slide deck. So if you feel like you missed anything tonight, we went over anything too quickly, I know that I tend to talk fast, sorry. So you will get a copy of the recording to review. But I see there's a lot of questions in here, Lisa. Lisa, you're on mute.
I got it. I've been answering them. So
oh, good.
Yeah, I think I've been keeping up. I don't think I've missed anything. But I just want to speak to this one about a cardiology or an ECG assistant. Some places call it an assistant. Sorry, I'm just trying to see who did it. It was Jazz. Like an ECG tech limited scope. You know that it has come back recently because the job market is that people, they're desperate for cardio techs and they're not out there. So, you know, 5 years ago, they really didn't exist, maybe in a few sort of less populated areas that were struggling to have cardio techs. But here in the Lower Mainland, they were not used. There's been a big turnaround in the last year. And so the practice, I would say, of most hospitals at this time is that when you're halfway through our program, so once you've done the first clinical placement, there are hospitals that will hire you to only do a less scope of work, and you get a less rate of pay. Sorry, I'm not moving very quickly there. Okay, Rachel, good, thanks. Did I miss another question? I thought there was another question about, I understand you're not able to choose your clinical. Where do you click about requests are taken into account? Currently working for Vernon Jubilee Hospital. Oh, nice. Big demand in Vernon Jubilee Hospital, so you'd have no problem there. It's true, you don't get to select. We do the selections of where you go on clinical, but yes, we're reasonable. So most people have their first choice is to be in their place of residence. And then if we can't accommodate that, if there's too many people, say, let's just use Rachel, for example, there's too many people in Kamloops, then we do a system based on marks as to where people will relocate for their clinical. And we do try to work with you. So I'm currently working with somebody in Ontario who has got 3 cities that they're willing to go to. We had a meeting, we talked about it. So now I'm trying to accommodate those places that she could go to because she's got family that she could live with. Another example would be like Rachel could probably speak to this. Rachel did live in Vancouver to start with. We did talk about it, I think, Rachel, or through our clinical meetings. I'm not saying I made you move to Kamloops, but it was on her radar to not live in Vancouver long term. So we want to speak to that, Rachel. And so she moved for clinical, right?
Yeah. Well, my boyfriend did get a job opportunity here in Kamloops, and I knew that a cardio tech can really take me anywhere. So I just mentioned to Lisa that right after I was moving to Kamloops, that my first clinical was starting. So you don't get to select where you go, but you do get to select your preferred sites. So I just listed that as my top one. And because nobody else was in the Kamloops catchment, I was able to have my practicums at Kamloops. So that has really helped out.
Yeah. And most students, but that would be the same story. I have had a few students that relocate. I have not had a student have a negative experience, I have to say. I have had a few students, that are in their 20s that live at home and they get the opportunity to go live somewhere else, sometimes in a smaller place, and get away from their family for a little bit. So, okay, I'm just trying to keep up with the questions. There we go. What have I missed? So the EP Advanced Study Grads is that program is very specific because not everybody has an EP lab. So currently it's Kelowna, Victoria, Royal Columbian, VGH, St. Paul's, and did I say Kelowna? I did. Yeah, those are the sites that have EP labs here in BC anyway. So you have to be supported by a clinical spot yourself. So there's sort of a process with that. I would say they are in demand, but often what will happen is they are taking from their own cardiology technology, their own cardiology departments. So where Rachel works, for example, most of the techs that are in the device clinic and help with a pacemaker inserts, they were cardio techs to start with, and then they took the BCIT advanced program. So to speak to demand, I think it sort of depends hospital to hospital and what you're looking for. Definitely there's more opportunity for device because there's way more pacemaker clinics within BC. EP is a little bit more specialized. But we just had a big push in Royal Columbian in Kelowna and at Children's Hospital, actually. They have EP as well. And they are now sponsoring 3 of their cardio techs to take the EP program. So. Is there anything else I missed? So you applied for the second.
There was a question about the September intake and the 2 windows that we had for the application period. So Carrie says, if we apply for the second application period for the September intake, will the number of seats available be dependent on how many seats are left for the first application period?
Oh, good question. So yeah, this is the first time we've done the window, so we're sort of trying to navigate through it. We are hoping to, long term to be able to increase our applicant pool, I guess that's our application numbers, and how many people we are accepting. So it's hard to answer that question. We will know before we make the decisions of the first window, we'll at least know how many people have applied. So I think at this time, I heard there was very small amount because most people got into the May 15th application. So that's actually pretty hard to answer, but I don't think the expectation was that we're thinking there's going to be a lot. So it sort of depends on the candidates. There's a pool of faculty that go through all the applications. And then there's the Casper test. So those are sort of factors in there. So Lisa, even if you didn't get in though, you could reapply. So I do have people that reapply. Yeah. For January.
So Lisa, would you say that this program is highly competitive or just a little bit competitive?
No, yeah, I would say it's a little competitive. I would say, it goes ups and downs. Our numbers are up for this application period, which we're happy to see that things are starting to climb a bit, but they're definitely not at a point where I would say I'm not overwhelmed with applicants. I would strongly encourage anyone who's interested to apply.
And I would actually say that pretty much most health sciences careers right now. As you guys hear in the news, there's a lot of demand in health right now. It's a growing field. They're hiring in every area of health right now. So it's a great time to apply, great time to get in, and there's definitely space in a lot of programs to get into at this point. So do apply. Don't be scared off by our preferred applicant information. Definitely, if you're interested and you have the credentials for it, please do apply.
Yeah.
Faisal's asking, would you say the same about the invasive track? I'm guessing the same as the EP.
Yeah, I think, are you talking about invasive or cardiovascular? That's what I'm guessing you're saying. Yeah, I would say it is the same. I would say, right, things change, like if I said right now, if you ask me right now, I would say EP is more popular right now for demand. But that could change in a year and a half. So sometimes it's difficult to predict because I don't know what your background is, Faisal, but if you were just starting out, you really wouldn't even be looking at going to a special advanced program for 3 or 4 years. And the wind might shift by then. So doing the cardio program would be step one. You can't go into the advanced programs right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Rachel has a question about the CASPER exam. Rachel, did you want to unmute to ask your question? Or were you just looking for
yeah. Hi.
Yeah? Hi, Rachel.
Yeah, I'm another Rachel.
Yes, the other Rachel.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I searched for the test dates for cardiology technology
Mm-hmm.
for
And there
this
aren't
year.
any.